So when we're thinking about homelessness, it shouldn't be thought of as something describing an other. Homelessness is affecting everybody in our community. As you pointed out, there's more than 14,000 families in the shelter system tonight. That's 22,000 children. Half of those kids are under the age of 5. So homelessness is something that is just affecting families who are struggling to get by, who are trying to pay their rent, unable to pay rent and getting evicted because they can't afford the skyrocketing rents in New York City. These aren't people who are choosing to live on the streets. This is, the typical profile in the family shelter system would be a mother with 2 kids who is either fleeing domestic violence or perhaps was working as, for example, a home health aide whose hours had been cut and rental arrears started building up over time. And she comes home one day to find that there's an eviction notice taped to her door. And then what does she have to do? Take her kids, put all of her belongings in a plastic bag, go to the intake facility for the family shelter system. And there's only one intake facility that's up in the Bronx. Travel with her 2 little kids up to this one intake facility, spend sometimes hours and hours and hours there waiting to get processed. And only 40% of the families that apply for shelter are initially found eligible. There's certain hoops that they have to jump through. They have to evidence every place that they slept for the last 2 years. They have to prove that they don't have an alternate to staying in the shelter system that night. So very often the shelter intake worker will tell them, well, you were staying with your aunt, for example, for the last 2 weeks. Why can't you go back there? And not believe her when she says, well, there was a disharmony in the household. The aunt kicked me out, refused to let me and my kids stay there anymore. So they get caught in this catch-22 very often. That's where we as a Coalition for the Homeless come in, because at that point we advocate for families like that to help them get in the shelter system so they're not, God forbid, sleeping on the streets with their kids. So what we see with homelessness in New York City is primarily families, just mothers and kids that aren't able to make ends meet and then end up having nowhere to stay but the shelter system.